Hi everyone, welcome to a new episode of Can I Film This Video Before My Daughter Wakes Up From Her Nap? Possibly not, but we're gonna try. My name is Jen, if you're new. Hi, I'm an author and a book reviewer. I make books. I do make books. I make videos about books is what I meant to say. I make videos about books on this channel, and today I'm here with a very large book haul because I haven't done a book haul this year at all, bar one, which was right at the start of the year, near my birthday, because I treated myself to quite a few John Wyndham books in January. But then, yeah, no book haul after that. That doesn't mean I haven't been purchasing books though. They've just been stacked in my office, and I would like to chat with you about them so that I can put them on my shelves and stop nearly falling over them. That would be great. I have them here. I think there's just over 40 to talk to you about. Some of them I've read, but I'm not going to be reviewing them in this video. I will be doing an epic wrap-up video in December where I challenge myself to try and remember everything I've read this year, because I haven't done a wrap-up this year either because everything's been chaotic and baby and all of that. There have been some reading vlogs, but no wrap-ups if I'm remembering correctly. So we will chat about every single book I've read at the end of the year before talking about the best books of the year. The lighting is super bright today because it has snowed. It was not supposed to snow today. It was a very big surprise, mostly to my daughter, who's obviously never seen snow before and had no idea what was happening but was thrilled about it. I think it's going to disappear very quickly and we'll go back to autumn goodness, which I'm pleased with because I still would like that to hang on for a little bit longer. Our local woods are looking so beautiful at the moment, and I know that I haven't done any reading vlogs recently where I take you on some walks, so I thought I would show you some autumnal goodness, throw some autumn at you. Here is a quick snippet of autumn in our local woods if you've been missing those vlog snippets. Here you go. So let's dive into the books. I actually repurchased two books first off. One of them is a book that I thought I definitely did have at some point but had parted ways with for some unknown reason because I hadn't read it. I don't know what happened there. It may have got lost in a move. I'm not sure. So I wanted to repurchase that, and then I also wanted to repurchase a book for a reread. I'm not sure I've ever had to repurchase a book before, so that felt a bit bizarre. But those two books were A Small Person Far Away by Judith Kerr. This is the third book in her trilogy. I don't know what the trilogy is called, but the first one in the trilogy is called When Hitler Stole Pink Rabbit, which I've reread every year multiple times since I was 10, 11, but I haven't reread until recently, because I've read them now, the second and third book. I hadn't revisited those because they are about the main character when she's an adult, and I just didn't care about that when I was a child. But then I thought recently I probably would care about those now because I am an adult. It may shock you to know. So I decided to revisit them, and spoiler, I loved both of these. The second one is called Bombs Falling on Aunt Daisy, but my version is called The Wrong Way Round because it's an old copy. I don't know why they renamed it. And the third one, this one, is A Small Person Far Away. When Hitler Stole Pink Rabbit is based on Judith Kerr's own life of fleeing Germany in the 1930s with her family, moving to Switzerland, then to Paris, then to London. The second one is about living in London during the Blitz, and the third one is about her revisiting Germany as an adult. And yes, I adored it. I loved it. It's very sad. I can see why I didn't like it when I was a kid, and I will talk about that in my wrap up, but it does say on these books that the second and third ones are not for children. So I think it is probably a little bit confusing to have a trilogy of books for different ages, you know? So I forgive my younger self for thinking that I should be reading it and being perplexed at not enjoying it. And the other one that I rebought is the one that I haven't actually read yet and would like to read before the end of the year. We will see if I get round to it. This is Bird's Island by Alice Thompson. I read her book, The Book Collector, and absolutely loved it. I want to say about 10 years ago, so it's been a while. She does really creepy, gothic fiction so well. Let me just read you the very beginning of the blurb of this. Struggling writer Max Long arrives on Burnt Island to work on his next novel. There he encounters best-selling author James Fairfax, who Max suspects of not being the real author of the book that has made his fortune. Furthermore, Fairfax's wife has gone missing. Just sounds great. And I have no idea where the original copy is. No doubt it will turn up once I've read the one that I've just bought. That sounds like the way the world works sometimes. Next, I bought a copy of Max Porter's new book. I know nothing about this. I pre-ordered it because it's Max Porter. And it has a foreword by Cillian Murphy. It's called All of This Unreal Time. Shall we look at the blurb together so that we can both learn about it? It says, what would you say if you had one ideal chance to speak to yourself, to make a language that spoke across time to those you have loved, to those you have wronged, to all those countless human and non-human lives that have intersected and impacted on yours with or without your knowledge? Max Porter's All of This Unreal Time takes this idea, the poetic concept of perfect speech, and turns it into a wild, psychedelic apology rant. I'm pretty sure that I'll be reading this by the end of the year, so I will be wrapping that up in that epic wrap-up video that I mentioned before. Then the Emma Press got in touch with me and asked if they could send me 2 non-fiction books, and I said yes please, because I have loved some of the non-fiction that they have published, specifically by Florentina Liao and Nina Mingya Pals. So they sent me 2 anthologies. This one is called Blood and Cord, Writers on Early Parenthood, edited by Abby Curtis. So the answer is no. I was not able to film this video before she woke up from her nap, so here we are. It is the evening. She's now in bed. I am looking decidedly more dishevelled. The light is definitely not as good, but you know, what are you going to do? We either do this or there's never going to be any videos, and I would rather do it like this, and I'm hoping it feels cosy. Where were we? I was saying the Emma Press sent me 2 books. I think that was what I was saying. And the first one was this one here, which is the Blood and Cord anthology about parenthood. There weren't, let me remind myself, there are not writers in here whose work I've read a lot by before. Was that a sentence? I think that was vaguely a sentence. So I'm looking forward to discovering new writers in here as well. I am familiar with Abby Curtis, but many of the other authors in here I am not familiar with. Then Choco Press sent me this, which is very exciting. One of my most anticipated books of this year. This is Claudia Pineiro's Time of the Flies, which is translated from the Spanish by Frances Riddell. I first read Claudia Pineiro when I read Eleanor Knows a few years ago. It was my favourite book that year. Brilliant. And I've since read several of her backlist books. She normally does crime. And Eleanor Knows wasn't really crime. There was an element of, has there been a crime to a literary story? But it was quite different from her backlist books. And one of her backlists is called All Yours, which is about a woman called Inez who sees her husband murdering his mistress, and then she cleans up for him without him ever knowing. And this is a follow-on to that, but I'm pretty sure, because it's not referenced anywhere on the book, that this is a standalone book. But I'm interested to see how I feel about the book, having read the first novel about Inez. I mean, Charco Press don't even publish that book, so it's interesting. It's interesting. It's much bigger than any of the books of hers that I've read before. How long is this one? It is, actually, it's only 360 pages. It's just, they publish their books so beautifully with thick paper. It looks longer than it is. Oh yeah, and this is the other Emma Press book. This is Bound, a memoir of making and remaking by Maddie Ballard, which is the one that they approached me about first and foremost, and I thought sounded brilliant. So the author is, it says on the back here that she is of mixed Chinese heritage, and each chapter in this sewist diary charts the crafting of a different garment, from a lining embroidered with the names of her female ancestors to a dressing gown holding the body of a beloved friend. Ballard navigates love, personal connections and self-care, drafting her own patterns for ways of living. It's a collection of essays about sewing and knowing who you are. Yeah, so really excited by that. Before I talk to you about the rest of the books, I have to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of this video, which is Serious Readers. They're a company that I love and I've been working with them for years because I think that what they do is great. They make reading lights, the best reading lights. This is one of them behind me. It's a high definition light and I use it every single day. If for some reason it disappeared, I would purchase it myself because I really value it. This is a floor light. Mine is corded, but you can get it cordless if you would like, but I still find it easy enough to move around. They have invented something called daylight wavelength technology, which mimics daylight as closely as possible to make eye strain less of a thing and to make reading as comfortable as possible. I know that it is brilliant. I absolutely love it. And it does have two bonus uses in recent times. It entertains my daughter if I turn it on and off. She really likes that. So I don't know if that's a selling point to you, but that's been a bonus for me recently. And then last weekend, we had two friends round in the evening. Can you believe it? We did something in the evening after 6 p.m. Like, what is life? I don't know. But we had a board game evening and this light was brilliant for that, shining down on the table and making sure that we could see what was going on. I mean, I say it was a board games night. Our friends brought around a game called Hadrian's Wall, and I'm afraid it was far too complicated for my very tired brain, but I very happily watched the three of them play and I offered some suggestions occasionally, and yeah, it was just a lovely time actually. But yeah, a bit too much for my sleepy brain right now, but I'm sure that I'll be back on the board game at some point in the future, but the time is not now. But yeah, that was also an added bonus. The light was very helpful for that. Series readers have given me a code if you would like to check them out. The code is Gen24 and that gets you £100 off a high definition light and free UK delivery as well. They don't just do floor lights for high definition lights, they also do table lights as well if you want to check those out. Link is in the description box down below. Thank you so much to them for sponsoring this video and also for making great things that help me read. Thank you. Right, on with the next book on the pile. Then I purchased this, which I purchase every year. This is the Forward Book of Poetry 2025. The Forward prizes for poetry are some of my favourite poetry prizes. I was a judge for them in 2018. I've been following them since, oh gosh, I don't know, a very long time. Since before 2012, because one of my poems was nominated for a Forward prize in 2012. So since before then, because I knew about it then. But anyway, their prizes celebrate best individual poems, best first collections, and best collections by authors who are not debuts. And then the Forward Anthology collects all of the work that is by the winners, but also the shortlisters and the commended poets as well. So individual poems that didn't quite make the cut, but editors would like to shout about. And it's a really great way to discover new voices. This next book is a review copy, and this was sent to me earlier in the year, and the publisher said that they thought I would like it because it's a dystopian book about hospitals. So that intrigues me a lot. It's called A Simple Intervention by Yael and Inokai, and it's translated from the German by Marielle Sutherland. It's about a nurse who works in a hospital where a doctor claims that they can free people from psychological disorders with a surgical intervention. It says that they promise them a new productive life free from suffering. Can it be so simple? It's about a nurse who works at this hospital who is proud to be part of the solution. But when she falls in love with another nurse, she crosses an invisible boundary with her certainty in the system, and her certainty in the system begins to crumble. It says it has echoes of Kazuo Ishiguro and Margaret Atwood. So, you know, obviously I'm going to be sucked in by that. Next, I've got Raymond Antropous's new poetry collection. You know, I love his work. He is the author of The Perseverance and several other collections. His poetry explores deafness, family. This one is mainly about fatherhood, and I've started reading the beginning of it and I'm really enjoying it, as I expected to. Then this is a book I have already read, and I think I've briefly touched on in another video, possibly, because it was a lot of fun. This is Think Again by Jacqueline Wilson. I think many of us were highly anticipating this year. It came out in September, and it's the follow-on to her Girls Quartet, which I adored so much I can't even tell you when I was a young teen. I thought this book was a lot of fun. Not perfect by any means, I mean, what book is? But I enjoyed myself. I'll talk about it more in the wrap up, but if you've been nervous about diving into it, I would say you don't need to be that nervous. Just, you know, go into it not expecting the world, and you will have a good time. A couple more poetry collections. We've got Adam by Gboyega Odubanjo, who passed away this year, very sadly, and this was his first full-length collection. I have his pamphlet on my shelf, which is called Auntie and Uncle Poems, and I really, really love his work. So this collection, Adam, it says, haunted by the discovery of the remains of a young black boy in the River Thames in London in 2001, Gboyega Odubanjo's Adam builds from the Genesis myth and from the Yoruba culture to examine with an unflinching eye the disappearance of a child and its implication for all black lives and for the society in which we live. And then this poetry collection, which I'd had on pre-order, it came out 2 weeks ago. This is Forest of Noise by Mosab Abu Toha, who's a Palestinian poet, and this is a collection of poems that he has been writing since October last year, and I've read some of them and they're brilliant. Then we have In Universes by Emet North. This is one of my most anticipated releases for the year as well, and it kind of gives me the feeling of Jeanette Winterson's book. What is it called? The Stone Gods, that's what that book is called, which is about love in different parallel universes. This seems to be the same thing. We've got a press release here. It says, Raffi is a physicist who spends their days removing stars from pictures of the night sky, dreaming about parallel universes. In this one, they're falling for a queer sculptor named Britt, who they almost met when they were kids, if only they'd had the courage to say hello. What if Raffi had said hello? The question catapults Raffi across alternate universes, each an answer to the question of what their life might be like if things had happened just a little bit differently. Next, I requested this from Daunt Books, who publish the most beautiful books and have the most beautiful bookshops. This is Vladivostok Circus by Eliza, Shua, Dusapin, and this is translated from the French by Elisa Abbas Higgins. I wasn't sure I was going to request this one because when it was released, I had read her debut, which was called Winter in Sokjo, and I felt quite ambivalent about it. But then earlier this year, I read The Pachinko Parlor, which is her second novel, and really, really loved it. It's one of my favorite books of this year. So I slid into their inbox and said, actually, you had asked if I would like a copy of this. I would very much like a copy of this, please. All of her books seem to be very different, which is refreshing and also for some reason slightly unnerving, and I don't know why. Maybe as a writer I feel threatened by that, I'm not sure. I believe that this is about a costume designer who works at a circus. Yes, so it is about Natalie, who works as a costume designer for a trio who work in a circus, and then after the circus has done its run, I think they hang out together, the four of them, and it's about them learning to trust each other in their relationships, and I don't know, I'm intrigued. Then we have this, which I have already read. This is a non-fiction book called My Good Bright Wolf by Sarah Moss, who is the author of many books, the names of which apparently all escape me right now. Her other non-fiction book is Names for the Sea, Strangers in Iceland, which I adore. It's one of my favourite non-fiction books ever, about her time living in Reykjavik with her husband and her children. This one is very different. It's looking at her childhood and then at her relationship with food. It's about eating disorders. It's also about the pandemic as well. Some of it contains literary analysis as well, so anyway, trigger warnings for discussions on eating disorders with this book. I will talk about it in my wrap up, but it was one of my most anticipated releases and I have read it. Another couple of my most anticipated releases which I haven't yet read. We've got Ali Smith's Gliff. This one was just released. I love Ali. I love that she is bringing 2 books out in consecutive years that have the same title, and how her publisher is so confident that that's not an issue. You know, I love the boldness of that, and also I was going to say not thinking about the sales angle of that, because other authors would be persuaded, I think, to not do that. But she's like, no, I'm going to bring out 2 books and they're both going to be called Gliff, except they're homophones and they're spelt slightly differently. I think I'm just thinking of being a bookseller and people coming in and half remembering titles and, you know, half hearing things on the radio that they have thought about reading. And also there'll obviously be people who see the book spelt differently but think that they have already read it because they've read this one. Anyway, it's brilliant, it's bonkers, it's great. I don't know what this book is about. I don't really want to know what the book is about. I have read all of Ali's books and I will read anything that she publishes. So that's not particularly helpful to you, I suppose. But even if I read you the blurb, I don't think it would give you a very definitive narrative line. I mean, one of the sentences here says, Gliff is a novel about how we make meaning and how we are made meaningless. You know, Ali's novels are really discussions about a topic that she is passionate about, and I'm very happy to listen. Then we've got Hum by Helen Phillips. This is, I think, some kind of nearly apocalyptic, very dystopian book. I loved her book, The Need. Super creepy, read that a couple of years ago. This is about a world where hums exist, and hums are robots, super intelligent robots. And it's about a character called May who is struggling with the recent job loss and her young family's addiction to modern technology. I don't really want to know more than that. I just would like to be creeped out by her. That's it. Thank you very much. I've just put on another light. I don't know if that's helpful. I kind of actually hope that it's not helpful, because then it would be annoying that I hadn't done that ages ago. Anyway, 2 more poetry collections. We've got Ambush at Still Lake by Caroline Bird. The blurb of this just sounds so good. It says, this is a collection about marriage, lesbian parenthood, addiction and recovery, in which a recurring dream is played out. A world where mums impale themselves on pogo sticks, serial killers rattle around in basements, and baby monitors are haunted by someone else's baby. Okay. And then we have this pamphlet here, which has been put together by several of my favourite writers, Jessica J. Lee, Elisa Mohammed, and Nina Minya Powles. And this is called This Too Is a Glistening. It says on the back that it's about diasporic bodies. I direct my gaze across time. In memory, the tree line is a shifting state. I don't know if this is all prose poetry or if some of it is prose. I will obviously find out when I read it. And this was a very limited edition. I'm not sure if this is still for sale, but if it is, I will link it in the description box down below. A 2025 release that I have here, which is being published by Bloomsbury, is Gunk by Saba Sams. I loved her short story collection, Send Nudes, which came out a few years ago, and I think lots of other people really enjoyed as well. I would recommend her work for fans of Tessa Moshfegh and also Eliza Clark. So this is about a woman called Jules who's been divorced from her ex-husband Leon for 5 years, but she still works with him at Gunk, which is a grotty student nightclub. But then he gets a new girlfriend and the girlfriend gets pregnant, and she becomes really close with the girlfriend. I don't need to know more than that. Her writing is just very gritty, I think is the word that I want to use. And I'm really interested to see how she writes in novel form, because her last book was a collection of short stories. I've spoken about Strangers Press on this channel before because I love what they do. They publish collections of pamphlets in translation from specific places. So they have a collection of Japanese pamphlets, Korean pamphlets, one from Switzerland, a Dutch collection. They have recently brought out this, which is their Taiwan collection. And they are published so beautifully. I'm going to link it in the description box down below so you can go and find out more if you would like to, because these do not have blurbs on the back like Persephone books, you know? So it's hard to tell you what they are about, but I'm very excited to read these. I may do a dedicated reading vlog to reading these at some point, which I've done with some of their previous collections, and that's always been fun. Inevitably, I will discover writers whose work I then want to go and read in full, which is always brilliant. Then we've got a proof from Granta. This is The Bridegroom Was a Dog by Yoko Tawada, which is translated from the Japanese by Margaret Mitsutani. This one came out early this year, so it's already out. It came out in May. It says a school teacher tells her students the fable of a princess who promises her hand in marriage to a dog she is intimate with. That very dog appears to the school teacher in real life as a dog-like man. A romantic and sexual courtship develops, much to the chagrin of her friends who have suspicions about the man's identity and motives. That sounds bizarre. Please sign me up. Thank you very much. We have got a couple of books here that I mentioned in my autumn recommendation video, so I'll just whiz through these. We've got Eliza Clark's new short story collection called She's Always Hungry. Read this, absolutely loved it. We'll talk about it in the wrap up. Then we have Little Witch Hazel, A Year in the Forest, which is kind of young end of middle grade about little witch Hazel who lives in the forest and is just hanging out with her friends. Very heavily folklore inspired, beautiful illustrations set across the seasons. Adored this one. Trilogy of books. This is, which is the first one, this one, Sato the Rabbit by Yuki Anoya, and this is kind of like The Little Prince-ish and palm of the hand stories, and they're about nature and the moon, a lot of magical realism in them, and again these are kind of young end of middle grade for kids, but I just absolutely love them. If you like Kay O'Neill's books, then you're going to love these ones. The second one is Sato the Rabbit, the Moon, and the third one is Sato the Rabbit, the Sea of Tea. They are honestly just like a hug, just so gorgeous. Highly recommend, would also make great Christmas presents, and I am doing a Christmas gift guide video. That one will be coming up next. Then we have The Echoes by Evie Wilde. This is her newest book. I reviewed this one for Toast, so I will link that review in the description box down below if you would like to go and check that one out. Quite different, I would say, to her last book, The Basrock. I would say this has more in common with her book, All the Birds Singing, which is actually the first one of hers that I read. Then, earlier this year, I had plans. That pile is teetering on the sofa. I had plans to do a reading vlog where I read BookTubers' favourite books, and I still plan to do that. I've done it before. This was just a new version that I was planning to do, and I bought 3 books to do that vlog, and then I haven't read them. So I'm going to tell you what those books are, and at some point I'll get round to filming that video and we can talk about the books more. So this is Land of Milk and Honey by C. Pam Zhang, and I heard lots of people talking about this in their best books of 2023. In fact, I can't remember whose books these are the favourites of. I do have that written down somewhere, so when I go to film the video, I can actually give you more information. But this, I think, is a dystopian book. It's a rapturous novel about a young chef whose discovery of pleasure alters her life and indirectly the world. A smog has spread. Food crops are disappearing. A chef escapes her career in London to take a job at a decadent mountaintop colony, seemingly free from the world's troubles. So, yeah, an apocalyptic novel about food. Then we've got this creepy book here called Kappa by Ryunosuke Agatagawa, and this is translated from the Japanese by Jeffrey Bonus with an introduction by G.H. Haley. So this is about the Kappa myth. And then we have got this by Nornaga, If an Egyptian Cannot Speak English, which again, I've seen on many people's channels. And it's one of those books actually that I'd seen knocking around, but I didn't know what it was about. You know, you can have those books on your periphery. Just for some reason, the blurb had escaped me. I don't tend to read a lot of romance, but this one is a love story. It's about 2 unnamed characters who meet and fall in love in post-Arab Spring Cairo, and the blurb says that it is a lush post-colonial novel for the 21st century. Then, this was not for that video, but it is a recommendation from another booktuber, though I don't think she's read it yet. I think I just saw it in a haul. So this was in Lauren's video. I think I'll link Lauren's channel in the description box down below, and it's called Pizza Girl by... Hang on, the writing is hard to read. Let me read on the inside. Hold Please, Pizza Girl by Jean Kyung Fraser, and it's about an 18-year-old girl who's pregnant and working as a pizza delivery girl. And then I think she becomes quite obsessed with someone that she's delivering pizza to, a woman called Jenny who's a stay-at-home mum who's new to the neighbourhood, and their lives just collide. And on the back it says it's like convenience store woman meets normal people, which is an interesting collision of titles. Another 2025 release here, we've got a collection of stories from Kirsty Logan, which is coming out on Valentine's Day. It's called No and Other Love Stories. Kirsty's short stories are my favourite type of writing from her, and I'm so looking forward to sinking my teeth into this. And actually I have another book by her here. These 2 books go together. Kirsty is a friend of mine, and then the other book is by Tom DeFreston, who I also know, and they both recently wrote books about parenthood, but also about fertility and loss, and I was not in a place where I felt like I could read those books. In a similar way, I'm sure that they would find it difficult to read my book, Please Do Not Touch This Exhibit. So kind of like, you know, dancing around each other for a while. But I do feel like I can read their books now, and I'm very pleased about that because I would like to support my friends. So this is The Unfamiliar, a queer motherhood memoir by Kirsty Logan. And then this is Tom DeFreston's book, Strange Bodies, A Story of Loss and Desire, talking about the multiple losses that he and his wife Kieran had before they had their daughter. So yes, I'm sure that these are going to be brilliant. And then finally, we have got 2 picture books here. One called Flock by Gemma Kuman, which is just gorgeous. It is about a girl called Sylvia who lives in a tree, and she likes doing her own things and doesn't really like hanging out with lots of other people until one day she makes friends with a bird, and that kind of changes her view on the world. And then this is Poco and the Drum by Matthew Forsyth, which is a hilarious book. I'm just going to read you the first couple of pages and also just show you the end papers, which are gorgeous, because it was the first few pages that really made me laugh. The biggest mistake Poco's parents ever made was giving her a drum. They had made mistakes before, like the slingshot and the llama. I think I just love how deadpan the illustrations are. It really made me giggle. I thought the book itself was brilliant, but I also talk about that in the wrap up that I'm going to do next month. I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to have some tea, I think, but not caffeinated because I'm going to go to bed soon. I'm very glad that I have shown you these books. It's reignited well, I was interested in them anyway, but reminded me that I really want to get to some of these very soon. So hopefully I can talk to you about them before the end of the year. Not all of them, obviously, let's manage our expectations, but some of them. And now I can also put them on my shelves, which is brilliant because at the moment, as I said, they've just been in a stack or 2 on the floor, which is not how one wants books to live. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. If you are new and you enjoyed this and you would like to subscribe, that'd be lovely. And if you are someone who likes my content and you would like to consider throwing $1 in the tip jar, Patreon is linked in the description box down below. I probably should have said this at the beginning of the video, but I am doing Vlogmas over on Patreon. It's a very casual affair. Every day from the 1st to the 24th of December, I will be uploading a short video where I am answering a question that patrons have sent to me. You can kind of think of it like an advent calendar if you would like. Very chatty, very informal, very chilled. Thank you very much to Serious Readers for sponsoring this video. That is also very kind of them, and I will link them in the description box down below. Go and check them out if you haven't already. Thank you so much. I am going to go eat some dinner, and I'm sending lots of love to you all. Mwah. Bye.